Welcome, everybody, to the First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. My name is Tim Atkins, and I am proud to serve as your Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration, and my pronouns are he, him. We welcome you in your brokenness and in your wholeness. No matter who you have been, who you are, or who you are becoming, we greet you today with love. Members might have received a little leaf in the mail this week. You're invited to plant this seed paper somewhere around your home. You can even write some of your hopes for the upcoming year on that paper before you plant it, as a way to celebrate flower communion at home. And now, I'd like to invite Hutton Wagner to light our chalice today. Hutton?
We light the chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, the cleansing heat of justice, and the flame of hope.
Thank you. And today we are celebrating Hutton's 8th birthday, which was April the 30th. Happy birthday. Today we celebrate the Unitarian tradition of flower ceremony, sometimes called flower communion. The flower ceremony is an annual tradition among Unitarian Universalists. It began in Prague about 98 years ago in a Unitarian church that was established and served by Reverend Norbert Čapek. At one point, Čapek's church was one of the largest Unitarian congregations in the world. As Czechoslovakia fell under the power of fascists, though, they faced a moral dilemma: to be silent or to speak out against evil. They chose the path of courage. In 1941, Reverend Čapek was arrested by the Nazis, who accused him of high treason, and they used several of his sermons as evidence against him. Čapek was sent to Dachau concentration camp, and he was ultimately killed in a gas chamber. It would be foolish to compare this time and this place, the state of Oklahoma, to Czechoslovakia under the Nazis. And yet, even today, we face our own moral dilemmas. And we are called to follow the model of Reverend Norbert Čapek and other courageous individuals and speak out against injustice wherever we see it. Thankfully, we are not alone in this fight. You are not alone. Our opening hymn today comes to us courtesy of the Unitarian Universalist of Santa Monica. This is "You Have More Friends Than You Know."
May need more time to grow. It's gonna be a be okay. You have more friends than you know. Be brave, be strong. You are loved, you belong. Someday soon, you will see exactly who you're supposed to be. And you don't have to go through this on your own. You're not alone. You have more friends than you know. Some who surround you, some you are destined to meet. You have more love in your life. Don't let go, give it time. Take it slow. Those who love you the most may need more time to grow. It's gonna be okay. You have more friends than you know.
Be who you are. Learn to forgive. It's not about who you love, but how you live. You have more friends than you know. Some who surround you, some you are destined to meet. You have more love in your life. Don't let go, give it time. Take it slow. Those who love you the most may need more time to grow.
It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. You have more friends than you know. More friends than you know.
Wow, that was lovely. 29 years ago, when I was 10, my father passed away suddenly from a pulmonary embolism. We had just moved from Indianapolis down to Columbus, Georgia, about 6 months prior. He had been going downhill due to rapidly advancing multiple sclerosis. There's not a lot from before I was 10 that I remember, but I remember scenes from this funeral vividly. I remember the food coming and coming to our house. I remember my uncle driving down overnight to be with the family. I remember getting off the plane back up to Indiana for the funeral and telling my maternal grandmother to be strong and that I'll be okay. I remember at the visitation how my sister and I would take turns away from the break room and do a round so visitors could see us. And I remember at the service my mom crying on one shoulder and my paternal grandmother crying on the other. But most of all, I remember the sunflower. At the graveside service in our family plot outside of Sheridan, Indiana, a place I would grow to know all too well, someone came up to my sister and I and told us we should take a flower home to remember the service by. For years, I didn't know who had suggested that to me, although I know now, but that comes later. My sister grabbed a rose, and I grabbed a sunflower. We went back to Georgia and we hung the flowers upside down to dry in the garage. And still to this day, I have that old dried sunflower head 29 years later. In fact, here it is, the big one right there, in this airtight container of dried flowers. Although now it has too many companions. I've experienced a lot of loss in my family. Indeed, my sister and I are the oldest surviving direct descendants of my father's branch of the family tree. In every funeral I went to for a family or a close friend, I would bring a sunflower back home from the service, dry it, and put it in this special container. If I couldn't make the funeral, I would buy sunflowers to keep around my apartment, just as a way to show my grief. So about 10 years ago, I did some research into sunflowers for a novel I was trying to write at the time. I knew why they were important to me, but I kept getting asked why I found so much spiritual depth to sunflowers. Indeed, sunflowers are the first connection I have to a greater spirituality. I found an ancient myth about Clytie and Apollo that talks about the origins of sunflowers. Clytie was a water nymph, and one day she saw Apollo streaking across the sky, and it was love at first sight. Well, Apollo wasn't having anything to do with another fawning nymph. He was too busy dragging the sun across the sky. 9 days she sat there, watching Apollo as he made his way across the sky. Each night she would sob in fear that he had left her and never would come back. She refused all food and all drink, and the other water nymphs kept coming by to tell her that pining for Apollo would end up to leading to no good. When the sun was in the sky, she would look nowhere else, desperate to catch another glance of her one true love. All day she would stay motionless, refusing to even blink, and follow the sun with her gaze the entire day. At long last, she rooted into the ground and was transformed into a sunflower, which traces the sun throughout the day, just as Clytie once did for her one true love. According to the myth, sunflowers in the end were born of love. Unrequited love, sure, but love nonetheless. But isn't grief and mourning just another part of love? Isn't it the love lost, but it's still love? Mourning is just another kind of unrequited love. I grew up unchurched. Sunflowers are my first connection to any kind of spirituality because sunflowers are my flower of mourning. I look at the sunflower and I see the petals. I've had so many family members pass on, it's practically one for each petal on the sunflower. I look at the sunflower and the brown seedlings on the big head, and I think of all the good memories I've had. Each one of those seedlings is a memory about one of those who have passed. The woody stalk, strong and solid, represents my UU faith in supporting me in my mourning. The sunflower itself, always churning in the field to face the sun. The grief always looking into the warm light of the day and tomorrow for comfort. Sunflowers are indeed my flower of mourning. So when my paternal grandmother passed away a few years ago, I discovered who it was that suggested to my sister and me that we take a flower home to remember the service by. It was Mama, my father's mother. When she was buried after a long struggle with Alzheimer's, in her casket, we placed the different plastic encased flowers she had collected over the years. And on each, she had inscribed the different family members' birth and death dates. Knowing that this tradition comes from my paternal grandmother, no longer with me in person, but with me in spirit, makes it all the more meaningful and a deep connection to my family roots. And the tradition lives on. Whenever I see a sunflower or take the time to look at this container of dried sunflower heads, I remember. And all those who I've loved, who have passed on, live on as well, because they live on in me, in my memories, and in the sunflowers. And of course, the first seeds I planted, now that I have a home of my own, sunflowers, which are happily growing outside as we speak. This is the first time since I was a child that I could grow plants outside. I've lived in dorms or apartments for the past 20 years. I knew immediately that the first seeds I would have to plant are sunflowers. Seeing these plants grow from a tiny seed that I'm surprised, frankly, a bird didn't manage to eat has given me a deeper level of awe. Watching these sunflowers grow has turned such an important part of my personal spirituality into a new and literally blossoming spiritual practice. And I couldn't be more grateful. So from my home to yours, from my sunflowers to yours, I wish you all a happy and meaningful flower communion. Thank you. And now I'd like to invite Carmen McBride to lead us in our offering. Carmen?
I'm Carmen McBride, and I'm past president of the congregation. Currently, I'm a member of the Religious Exploration Team, the Human Resources Team, and Gardening Covenant groups, aside from Voice. Every Sunday, we take an offering. Since 2002, all the cash and designated checks from that offering have gone directly to external nonprofit organizations doing good work in our community, our Change for Change partners. This month, our Change for Change partner is Voice. And Voice is an organization that I know much about, as I and our church was one of the founding members of bringing Voice to Oklahoma City. Voice is about creating change, and it's about having power. And the more of this there are, the more power and change that we can make in our community. You may wish to make your donation using a credit card through our website, or this would be a good time to find your checkbook, write out a check, and put it aside to mail to First Unitarian Church tomorrow morning. Let today's offering reflect our highest aspirations for the work of this church in the world.
Well, mine is the church where everybody's welcome. And I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the face, 'cause we've got space for more. Try it out now, here we go. Well, mine is the church where everybody's welcome. That's right. And I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the face, 'cause we've got space for more. Well, come here, all you 6-foot gladiolas. Come, all you purple lilacs shining bright. Come, let us all bloom together in one garden. A carnival of fragrance and delight. And I said that mine is the church where everybody's welcome. And I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the face, 'cause we've got space for more. We don't simply tolerate each other. We ask and tell, we don't just turn away. We give attention to every bud and blossom. Let every face come grace the grand bouquet. Here we go. Well, I said that mine is the church where everybody's welcome. I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. Sing it out now. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the face, 'cause we've got space for more. Take it away. Demons keep trying to divide us. They document their lies to make them true. But today we're free from our judging and excluding. Just look around, enjoy the lovely view. Sing it out. I said that mine is the church where everybody's welcome. And I know it's true, 'cause I got through the door. We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of flower. Jump in the face, 'cause We are a dazzling bouquet of every kind of color. Jump in the vase, 'cause we got space. Jump in the vase, 'cause we've got space. Jump in the vase, 'cause we've got space for more.
Even as a child, I never thought of dandelions as beautiful, but I appreciated their functional versatility. In their white and wispy form, you could blow on them to make wishes. And while I could never pull it off, I had a friend who was able to make the hollow stems into tiny little horns, little musical instruments. In their yellow form, you could tie dandelions together to make necklaces so long that you could loop them around your neck like 1920s flappers beads. And of course, there was their use in divining whether or not someone liked butter. You would rub them on someone's chin, and if it left a yellow mark, they liked butter. Not surprisingly, they always left a yellow mark because butter. As a property owning adult, though, I learned to hate them. I spent untold hours bombing them with pre-emergent corn gluten and digging them up out of the ground with a special weeding tool, only to have them pop their sunny little heads up everywhere in my yard. Now that I'm older, my attitude about them has changed. And I've become that neighbor, yes, that neighbor, who just lets them grow. Dandelions and I enjoy a peaceful détente. There are lots of reasons behind this evolution. I've just recently discovered the ways that dandelions work to make our background ecologies better. They plant themselves on compacted soil, and they drill down with their amazing taproots. Over time, dandelions aerate the soil so that other more fragile plants can grow there, and they become crowded out, essentially working themselves out of a job. Thanks to their amazing root, they can also grow in soil that's bereft of critical nutrients like calcium. They grow down below the grass's root line to tap into the rich minerals held deeper in the earth. And then they pump those nutrients up into their leaves and flowers. And when they die and decompose, all that calcium replenishes the topsoil so that, again, other plants can grow in a place that was once barren. In addition to all this, dandelions serve a critical role as an early food source for pollinators that emerge in the spring, before many other flowers have appeared. Native bees in particular depend on them, especially in a year like this one, when a late cold snap took out so many of our flowering plants. Granted, dandelions are not themselves native plants. They were brought over by Europeans who used them as food and medicine. Every part of a dandelion plant is edible, and they're among the top 5 most nutritionally dense greens. They've been used as medicine for thousands of years. Plants that were brought over to a new land to do the hard work, to feed and to heal, became reviled. Whole industries emerged to eradicate them. In this sense, I can't help but draw an analogy to all the people who were forcibly moved or intentionally enticed to this country to toil without compensation or credit, only to be depicted as inferior or invasive. Because this is another way I've learned to appreciate dandelions, as a metaphor for all those who survive and thrive, who give and grow, despite being treated as an unwanted weed. As Toni Morrison wrote in her novel, The Bluest Eye, quote, "Nobody loves the head of a dandelion, maybe because they are so many, strong, and soon," unquote. Queer Black feminist writer and activist Adrienne Marie Brown, in her book Emergent Strategy, uses the dandelion as a symbol of resistance, resilience, and regeneration. She draws connections between dandelions and oppressed and marginalized groups like non-binary, transgender, and queer communities. Like dandelions, she writes, these groups might be seen by some as weeds, and they might be aggressively attacked and removed, but they are hard to uproot. And when they are uprooted, they'll find new ways to grow. She writes, quote, "Dandelions don't know whether they are a weed or a brilliance. But each seed can create a field of dandelions. We are invited to be that prolific and to return fertility to the soil. Dandelions spread not only themselves, but their community structure, manifesting their essential qualities, which include healing and detoxifying, to proliferate and thrive in a new environment. A dandelion is a community of healers waiting to spread," unquote. There's one more very personal way I've come to appreciate dandelions, as a symbol of my own changing and aging. And this remains a growth area for me. As easy as it is to enjoy and appreciate a field or even my own yard dotted with bright yellow flowers that open at dawn and close at dusk or on a rainy day like so many little suns, it's more difficult to appreciate the tall stalks crowned in white that poke unflatteringly above the grass and that seem to reemerge just as unruly minutes after you mow them down. As a woman in the second half of my 50s, I'm learning to appreciate those pesky puffballs with their thickened trunks and their thin white hair. They are both the very same yellow flower that shone from the grass all shiny and bright, and they are something else entirely, something powerful, something full of potential. In its younger stage, what looks like a single yellow flower is actually hundreds of tiny florets. It opens and closes with the sun, and then over the course of a week or more, although it might seem like minutes to us humans, it transforms into a mass of seeds, each seed suspended by a parachute-like filament. The seeds are easily released by a puff of breath or a breeze. Some of these seeds will travel far, even miles away, lofted on their little parachutes that provide aerodynamic drag. In its puffball stage, a dandelion is incredibly resilient. Their stalks have become strong, hollow tubes, allowing them to rise up tall without snapping in the wind. Their seeds are as tough as nails. They can soak in the salty ocean for up to 28 days and be carried 1,000 miles along a coast and still germinate. There are some flowers that mature into sweet fruit and rely on hungry animals to carry their progeny to new and fertile ground. There are other flowers, like tulips, that, as described in Michael Pollan's book, The Botany of Desire, are actively proliferated by human beings because we find them beautiful. And then there are the dandelions that rely on nothing but the wind. They thrive despite being called weeds. They serve the earth and others, not through sacrifice, but through self-preservation. They may not be orderly and proper, but they heal and enrich the soil. As young plants, they shine like the sun, and then they transform into round white moons, finally being scattered and carried through the air like stars. Of all the flowers that make an appearance in the flower ceremony, one that tends to be missing is the dandelion. Some might be ashamed to bring such a humble flower, what some would call a weed, to represent themselves and the gifts they bring to community. And yet, we may aspire to be as resilient, giving, determined, and strong as the dandelion. We may aspire to plant roots so deep that no industry of eradication can stop our eternal return. We may aspire to embrace change as the dandelion does, transforming from something cheerful and yellow to something that is the color of earth and clouds, powerful and beautiful in its own way, changing from sun to moon to stars to hundreds of bright new suns. So let us celebrate the beauty of roses, the fresh surprise of the daffodils, the sweet fruit of the apple blossom, and the glory of the lily. But may we also find room in our hearts for the dandelion. For when we are at our best, our strongest, and most resilient, we are like dandelions. May we all shine bright. May we all fly. Today, we use flowers as a metaphor for the beautiful diversity of our church community. But we should also honor the flowers for simply being themselves, for feeding the pollinators and producing the fruits and vegetables that allow us to live, for bringing untold beauty, color, and fragrance into our lives. Our anthem today is an aria from Handel's opera Xerxes, and it's an ode to nature. It is a simple acknowledgement of the gifts we receive from nature, including the sweet, cool shade of a tree. This is Ombra Ma Fu, performed by the First Unitarian Virtual Choir with a video edited by our Congregational Life Coordinator, Nathan Boone.
Thank you, choir. In 1923, the minister of the Unitarian Church in Prague, Czechoslovakia, Norbert Čapek, wanted to create a ritual that symbolized the unity of the congregation without utilizing the bread and wine of Christian communion. And so Čapek created the flower ceremony. He asked congregants to bring flowers from their gardens or that they found growing along roadsides. The flowers represented the gifts of the earth and the unique beauty and importance of every individual. As Unitarian Universalists, we continue this tradition today. Each person brings their flower to place within a communal bouquet as a symbol of the way that we freely join in community to create something that's even more complex and beautiful than its individual parts. So this year, with virtual worship, we have to adapt our ceremony just a little. So I invite you to either on your computer, pull up a web browser or pull out your phone if you have a smartphone. You're going to go to the website I just put in the chat, and that website will come up again soon. Don't worry, all right, if you missed it this first time. It's www.menti.com. And when they ask for a code, you'll type in 2427-6645. Again, that'll be on your screen again shortly. You'll be typing in 3 things that you bring to this community. Now, if you're not sure about the tech side, you can share them in the chat as well, and we will get added to a beautiful community word cloud garden that we're going to create. I will share the screen so you can see the results as they come in. And if you need to take yourself out of full screen mode to participate in Zoom, you just need to hit the escape key on your keyboard. So again, I invite you to think about and share, what blessings do you bring to this community? And you can answer it with 3 short words or phrases. We'll take a couple of minutes and I will read some of the answers out loud as I receive them. There we go. So you'll see you can go to www.menti.com and use the code 2427. Hope. Good humor. Financial support. Smiles. Love. Caring. My voice. Passion for growth. Smiles. A listening ear. Oh, this is beautiful as we create this together. Harmony. Empathy. Volunteering. Acceptance. Time. Flute. Caring. Intentionality. Patience. Joy. Dedication. Playfulness. Smile. Giving spirit. Beautiful. Inclusiveness. Interest. Questions. Care. Hope and happiness. And you can continue to share on that screen, share your answers to that question as I invite Reverend Diana up to lead us in a prayer.
And now I ask that you take the flowers that you've brought with you today and hold them up to your screen. In the Prague Church, once the flowers were collected, Reverend Chapek would offer this prayer for blessing. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in the world. Amen.
Amen. Traditionally, the flower ceremony ends when all of the congregants come back to the bouquet that's been collected and take one flower, one that's different from the one they brought, that they carry back to their homes. This symbolizes the way we both give of ourselves and receive from others. And so I'm going to invite you to go to that same website. If you're already there, you can just stay there because the questions are about to change. What do you receive from the One You See community? You're going to want to go to that website, menti.com, and type in the same code, 2427-6645. And the new question should be on your screen. And you are also welcome to share that response in the chat as well. What do you receive from the First Unitarian Church Oklahoma City community? Love, support, acceptance, centering, profound friendship, accountability, belonging, joy, friendship, caring, beauty, peace, family, help, support, connection, a sense of belonging, mentoring, hope, inspiration, purpose, community. Thank you all, and you can continue to share in the chat or on the menti.com site. And we're going to keep these. We're going to use these somewhere because it's beautiful. Thank you all for your sharing. Now, I'd like to invite you to join us in our closing hymn, The Rose, performed by Susan Mashiyama.
Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you its only seed. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to dance. It's the dream afraid of waking that never takes the chance. It's the one who won't be taken, who cannot seem to give, and the soul
Hutton, would you extinguish our chalice for us?
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of love and community, which burns in our hearts.
Thank you. For our blessing today, I'd like to share this blessing by Amy Zuckerman Morgenstern. And there is a refrain that I will ask each of you to share when I indicate. And that is, may our lives bloom like the flowers. So when I go like this, may our lives bloom like the flowers. Each of us is a flower with a delicate beauty, uniquely our own. We may be like sunflowers, turning always towards the light. May our lives bloom like the flowers. We may be like night blooming cereus, only displaying our fragrant petals when it is dark and we think no one can see. May our lives bloom like the flowers. We may be hothouse flowers far from our native lands, cautiously tended within a harsh and unfamiliar climate. May our lives bloom like the flowers. We may be gray-headed like dandelions, eager to launch the new generation with the first strong gust of wind, past our own bright youth, but ready to pass our wisdom on in precious gossamer carried seeds. May our lives bloom like the flowers. Some of us sometimes spring up overnight and fade in the hot glare. May our lives bloom like the flowers. And some of us sometimes are roses, slowly assembling petal after tightly wrapped petal, and revealing our full glory only when everything is in place. May our lives bloom like the flowers. Sometimes we are roadside weeds, loveliness bursting improbably from the dust and debris. May our lives bloom like the flowers. May we offer our beauty with the simplicity of flowers, expecting no recognition, hoping for nothing, giving out of what we are and knowing it is enough. May our lives bloom like the flowers. Amen. In just a moment, I'll share our postlude. It's in our hymnal if you'd like to sing along, in our gray hymnal number 78, Color and Fragrance, which was written, the words and music, by Reverend Norbert Chapek. And it's performed by Sandra Hunt and Luthera de Gonca Lippert from the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And after the postlude, I invite you to go get your coffee, take a short break, and then come either join us at our coffee hour, the regular link for the virtual coffee hour, or join the RE Family Town Hall at the link that was posted in the pre-service announcements and that has been posted a few times here in the chat today. And for everyone, be well, be safe, be as the flowers, beautiful, blossoming in your glory. Amen.